It was 6 a.m. in New York City. The sky was just beginning to turn that soft gray blue, the kind that whispers to the city, "Wake up, it's time." The streets were mostly quiet, save for the hum of early buses and the occasional bark of a dog being walked by someone with a 9 to 5 to catch. Skyscrapers stood like sleeping giants, their windows still dark, as if they too hadn't fully opened their eyes yet. But Jared Cole, he was already done. At just 28, Jared had already finished his morning run. Not a jog, not a half-hearted shuffle, a real, solid, focused run. The kind where sweat drips steadily from your temple and your heart is racing not from anxiety, but from fire. And what's crazy, he did it without an audience. No one cheering him on, no motivational playlist blasting. Just the steady rhythm of his sneakers pounding against the pavement and the cool morning air filling his lungs. He wasn't famous. He wasn't a tech mogul with a multi-million-dollar startup. He didn't have a documentary or a tragic backstory that made people cry and click like. Jared wasn't the guy you'd find on a Forbes list or trending on social media. He was just a regular guy, living in a small studio apartment in Brooklyn, paying rent like everybody else, brewing his own coffee, and washing his dishes by hand because he didn't have a dishwasher. But what made him different? One thing: consistency. Day in, day out. No matter the weather, no matter how tired he was, no matter if it was Monday or Christmas morning, Jared showed up. He laced up those shoes, tied them tight, and hit the streets. And that fire, that unshakable discipline, it wasn't born out of luxury or inspiration. It was born 5 years ago, from a place so dark and lonely, even he didn't like talking about it, because that was rock bottom. And that's where it all began. It was 2019. Jared had just lost his marketing job. No warning, no severance, just a cold, awkward 10-minute meeting in a glass conference room where his boss couldn't even look him in the eyes. The words, "We're restructuring, Jared. It's not personal," still echoed in his head like a bad joke. But it felt personal. Hell, it was personal. That job wasn't just a paycheck. It was the one thing tethering him to a sense of identity, to purpose, to worth. Within 2 months, whatever little savings he had, gone. Rent, groceries, bills, the constant pressure to figure it out. It all drained him. Emotionally, mentally, financially. Every rejected application felt like another punch to the gut. And eventually he gave up his apartment, packed up what he could in 2 cardboard boxes, and moved back to the only place he had left, his childhood home in a sleepy little town upstate. Same creaky floors, same bedroom with the old baseball posters on the wall, same feeling of being stuck in time. But this time, something was different. He was drowning inside. Depression didn't show up all at once. It crept in slowly, quietly. He stopped shaving, started sleeping until noon. Meals became microwave dinners and lukewarm coffee. The days blurred together, and while his old high school friends were posting new jobs, new homes, wedding photos, Jared was lying on the couch, scrolling in silence, feeling like he was disappearing. No calls, no texts, just a heavy, aching loneliness. And then came that night. He'd gone out to grab some bread and peanut butter. It was supposed to be a quick 5-minute stop at the grocery store, but once he parked, he didn't move. He just sat there, hands gripping the steering wheel, eyes filled with tears he hadn't even realized were building up for weeks. The kind of crying you do when there's no one around to see. The kind where your chest tightens and you suddenly feel like a child again, lost and small in a world that doesn't care. It was in that moment, through blurred eyes and trembling hands, that he noticed it. A small, yellow post-it note, faded around the edges, tucked into the corner of his dashboard, like it had always been there. He'd seen it before, years ago. But this time it hit different. His dad's handwriting, sharp, slanted, familiar. "Son, success isn't magic. It's 5 simple things done every single day. Love, Dad." He stared at that note, first for a few seconds, then a minute. then 5. The tears stopped, but the ache in his chest shifted. Just slightly. It felt like a whisper through the noise, like someone had finally reached down and said, "Get up, kid, it's not over." For an entire hour, Jared sat there. No music, no distractions, just him, the silence, and his father's words. And in that grocery store parking lot, under a flickering street lamp and the hum of distant traffic, something inside him cracked open. That was the moment. The moment everything changed. Rule 1. Discipline over motivation. It didn't click all at once. It wasn't some lightning bolt or Hollywood-style moment of clarity. It was quieter than that, almost like a whisper that kept returning every morning. Jared opened his eyes. Motivation. That had betrayed him plenty of times. One day it was there, pushing him to send out 10 resumes or go for a run. The next day, it vanished, gone like smoke, leaving behind nothing but excuses. He finally saw it for what it was. Unreliable, inconsistent, a mood. And moods come and go. But discipline, that was different. Discipline wasn't about how he felt. It was a decision, a hard one, that he had to remake every single day. So he created a routine, not some Pinterest perfect checklist or a feel-good planner layout. Just a simple, no-nonsense plan he stuck to like his life depended on it. He set his alarm for 5:30 a.m. every morning. No snooze, no negotiating. That first decision, to get up when everything inside him screamed, "Stay in bed," was the start. It set the tone for the whole day. Then came the workout. 45 minutes of push-ups, squats, jumping jacks, and runs around the block. No fancy gym, no trainer, just grit, sweat, and the sound of his breath getting heavier as the minutes went on. Some days he was sore from the night before. Other days, his legs felt like bricks. But he moved, always. Then the cold shower. Not because it was comfortable. God, it wasn't. But because it reminded him that growth happens when you lean into discomfort. The icy water jolted his senses awake, like a shock to the system, forcing him into the present moment. No overthinking. Just inhale, exhale, endure. After that, he carved out 1 hour to learn something new. Whether it was a podcast on business strategy, a YouTube tutorial on coding, or reading articles about marketing trends, he forced his mind to stay sharp, to grow, to stretch. That hour wasn't optional. It was him investing in the version of himself he hadn't met yet. And then, it was time to hustle. Job applications and freelancing. No sugarcoating. It was tiring, soul-draining some days. Rejection emails, no responses. But Jared sat down at his old desk, opened his laptop, and showed up anyway. Day after day. He wrote cover letters, he updated his resume, he reached out to clients. Even when he didn't feel inspired, even when the voice in his head said, "What's the point?" Because that was the rule now. Discipline over motivation. He didn't always want to do it. Truth is, most days, he didn't want to do it. But he did it anyway. And that was the difference. Rule 2. Play the long game. Jared had to unlearn something deep, something that had been drilled into him from every direction. The obsession with fast results. The overnight success stories. The viral wins. The "in just 30 days" promises. He had chased all of that before. Clicked on the ads, signed up for the webinars, even bought a couple of life-changing courses that only ended up collecting digital dust. But not this time. This time, he told himself the truth. Real growth doesn't come fast, it comes slowly, quietly, with more days of silence than applause. So he dropped the quick fixes and the flashy dreams. No more chasing the jackpot, no more Googling how to make $1,000 in a week. He replaced urgency with patience. He made a simple decision. Build real skills, no shortcuts, no skipping steps. He picked digital marketing, not because it sounded glamorous, but because he saw the world moving online. Businesses needed it, people were hiring, and most importantly, It was something he could learn from scratch, right from his laptop. So he started with YouTube. Every single day. Tutorials, case studies, lectures, whatever he could get his hands on. He took notes in a spiral notebook, rewound videos, paused to Google unfamiliar terms. There were no certificates, no coaches, just his raw attention and the burning belief that if he stuck with it long enough, something would shift. And here's the honest part. For the first 3 months, absolutely nothing happened. No clients, no freelance gigs, no money. Just Jared, sitting in front of his screen, trying to stay focused while doubts chipped away at him. He questioned himself more than once. Is this even worth it? What if I'm wasting my time? But he kept going. And then, one afternoon, something small but huge happened. An acquaintance on LinkedIn, someone he hadn't spoken to since college, messaged him, "Hey, I saw your post about running ads. Any chance you can help my cousin with some Instagram campaigns?" It wasn't a glamorous job. It wasn't even steady work. But it was real. $100. That's what they offered. And Jared, he took that 100 gig and treated it like a $10,000 client. He showed up early to every Zoom meeting. He researched that small business's audience like it was a Fortune 500 brand. He optimized the ad copy, tracked performance, even created a basic report, all self-taught. Because to him, that wasn't just a job. It was proof. Proof that patience pays off, that the long game isn't about waiting, it's about building. And for the first time in a long time, Jared felt something real. Momentum. Rule 3. Be so good they can't ignore you. Jared wasn't trying to impress anyone. He wasn't running flashy ad campaigns or dropping buzzwords to sound smart. He was just focused, head down, sleeves rolled up, doing the work. And as the weeks passed, something started to shift. Quietly, gradually. He wasn't just learning digital marketing anymore. He was getting good at it. Clients noticed how he communicated, how he asked the right questions, how he didn't promise the moon. He delivered actual, measurable results. There were no inflated egos, no smoke and mirrors. Just clean execution, thoughtful strategy, and honest hustle. It was that rare kind of reliability that people don't forget. Word started to spread in small circles. But Jared didn't wait for opportunity to come knocking. He started showing his work. No sales pitch. No, DM me to work together. Just real stories. Little case studies of what he was doing, what worked, what didn't. He posted them on LinkedIn, just hoping it might help someone else. One post explained how a local gym increased signups using geo-targeted Instagram ads. Another broke down a $50 campaign that brought in 1,000 new visitors to a handmade jewelry store. Nothing dramatic, just value, shared with honesty and zero expectations. And then one day, something happened. One of his posts exploded. Comments, shares, DMs from strangers saying things like, "This was insanely helpful," or "Thanks, I needed to read this today." He wasn't chasing validation, but suddenly, he had attention. Then came the message, a DM from a startup founder. Someone Jared had never met, never pitched to, never even heard of. It was short, casual, but it hit hard. "I don't know why, but your energy is different. We want you." That one sentence landed like a punch, in the best way. It wasn't just about his skills. It was about him, his approach, his tone, his energy. And here's the kicker. Jared didn't even have a registered business yet. No fancy website, no agency name, just a Gmail account, a few spreadsheets, and a deep sense of responsibility. Still, they didn't care. They offered him a $2,000 monthly retainer, just like that. Not because he asked, but because he was so good. They couldn't ignore him. Rule 4. Eliminate distractions. It wasn't about becoming a monk. It wasn't about cutting himself off from the world or preaching some hustle 24/7 lifestyle. For Jared, it was about choosing clarity over clutter. He looked at his days and realized most of his time wasn't being stolen. he was giving it away. A 5-minute scroll on Instagram would somehow turn into 40. An episode of a show on Netflix became 3. Random hangouts, late-night texts, casual calls that led nowhere. It was all noise. Constant, comfortable noise. So, he made a decision that felt extreme, but necessary. He deleted Netflix. Gone. No just one more episode temptations. No binge watching to escape the stress. He wanted to face his days, not blur through them. He logged out of Instagram. Not forever, but long enough to take his attention back. No more endless reels. No more comparing himself to the highlight reels of others while quietly questioning his own path. He knew how subtle that damage could be, how it eats away at your focus without you even noticing. And perhaps the hardest part, he stopped saying yes to every hangout, every casual meetup, every just come chill for a bit text. Not because he didn't care about his friends, not because he wanted to isolate himself, but because his priorities had shifted. He was done being everywhere. Now, he wanted to be somewhere, fully. You don't rise by being available to everything. You rise by being available to what matters most. That line lived in his journal now. He read it every morning before opening his laptop. It wasn't a quote he found online. It was something he wrote to himself after realizing that half his battles weren't against the world. They were against his own distractions. And for Jared, what mattered most now was growth. Focused, intentional, daily growth. Not loud, not flashy, but real. And he knew the only way to truly rise was to protect his time like it was gold. Rule 5. Serve before you sell. Jared didn't launch his agency with a press release. There was no sleek website, no big announcement, no grand opening post on LinkedIn. No one even knew he was building something, because he wasn't focused on building a brand first. He was focused on helping people. That was the entire foundation. Serve first, sell later. He started small, really small. He'd come across a struggling local coffee shop on Facebook, barely getting engagement on their posts. Instead of pitching them a service or asking for a retainer, Jared simply messaged the owner. "Hey, I looked at your page. I think there's a few simple things you could tweak that might help. Want me to send over a free audit?" No strings, no catch, just help. And that's exactly what he did. Again and again. For barbershops, yoga studios, mom and pop stores, anyone trying to keep their business alive online. Jared would spend his evenings reviewing their digital presence, website, ads, email flows, social content. He'd break it all down in a PDF and send it with a friendly note. Zero pressure. And something beautiful happened. People didn't just appreciate the effort, they remembered it. They felt seen, respected, understood. And when they were ready to spend money, guess who they called? Jared. Slowly but surely, his client list began to grow. Not from sales funnels or cold emails, but from trust. Word started spreading. One happy business owner would tell another. Someone from a Facebook group would mention him in a thread. A bakery he helped for free sent him a check 6 months later, without even asking his rate. It all added up. By the end of year 1, Jared looked at his roster and realized something incredible. 27 active contracts. From zero, no investors, no office space, just consistency, humility, and service. And then came the second year. Quietly, steadily, without hype. He crossed $1 million in revenue. Not because he pushed products, but because he pushed value. Because he built his agency on one golden principle. Help first, always. The present day. Today, Jared's world looks very different, but not in the flashy, Instagram highlight reel kind of way. There's no Ferrari in the driveway, no designer suits, no speeches with spotlight introductions or dramatic music behind him. In fact, if you passed him on the street in Brooklyn, you probably wouldn't even recognize him. Hoodie, backpack, beat-up sneakers, same guy, just sharper eyes, quieter confidence. These days, Jared spends part of his time mentoring underprivileged kids in Brooklyn. Not because it makes headlines, Not because he's trying to build a personal brand around giving back, but because he remembers exactly how it felt to be lost, to feel invisible, to sit in the back of the class and silently wonder if any of it would ever matter. He walks into schools without fanfare, just him, a notebook, and a heart that knows the value of presence. And when he speaks, it isn't some long, drawn-out motivational seminar. There's no slideshow, no elevator pitch. He just sits with the kids, sometimes 10 of them, sometimes 50, and he tells them the truth. Success isn't a lottery, it's a formula. The room gets quiet, not out of awe, but out of curiosity. Because Jared doesn't talk at them, he talks to them. Like an older brother who's been through the fire and came back not with scars to brag about, but a roadmap worth sharing. Stick to these 5 rules daily and life has to reward you, and they believe him. Because he doesn't preach it, he lives it. No big speeches, no viral videos, just quiet consistency. That's what makes him different. He tells them straight. You don't need to be the smartest in the room. You don't need to be born rich. You don't even need to be naturally talented. What you do need? Focus, discipline, and a generous spirit, willing to show up, help others, and protect your own time like it matters. Because it does. He doesn't promise miracles, he promises results, but only if they commit. Not for a day, not for a week, not for one burst of motivation, but for a year, daily, quietly, relentlessly. Follow these 5 rules, not for a week, but for a year, and your life will transform in ways you never imagined. Start today. And with that, he leaves. No mic drop, no applause, just impact. Real, lasting, human. Make sure to subscribe and turn on the notifications so you never miss an update.